You thought she was your salvation. But she was only your reflection, the mirror of everything you never dared to confront within yourself. You, the engineer, the builder of machines, the solver of problems, failed to solve the one equation that destroyed you, her gaze. She smiled, and you mistook it for truth. She cried, and you rushed to fix it. You built bridges not of steel but of your own soul, laying piece after piece until there was nothing left of you but scaffolding. And still, she didn't see you. She saw only the man she imagined, the projection, the actor in her private theater. You gave her your time, your mind, your heart, but all she wanted was to shape them into something that was never you. Carl Jung warned, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And you, my friend, avoided yours. Carl Jung wrote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. These words were not meant for scholars alone. They were meant for men like you, the silent builder, the engineer who thinks he can construct happiness as he constructs bridges. But the eternal girl, the puella eterna, is not made of logic or design. She is a phantom of your own unacknowledged shadow. Jung warned that men fall not because women are cruel, but because men are blind. We project the idealized image of salvation onto them, the nurturing mother, the perfect lover, the muse who will heal every fracture of our soul. We forget that she is human, flawed, and often trapped in her own unconscious archetypes. We believe her laughter is light. We mistake her innocence for purity, her unpredictability for magic. But the puella eterna is not magic. She is the storm of perpetual girlhood, the siren who never grows, who lures men into chasing a dream that can never be fulfilled. She wants the thrill of being adored, but not the weight of being known. Jung observed that men who fall for such women are often not choosing love. They are choosing an escape. They choose her because she distracts them from the terror of facing themselves. And yet this projection is a double-edged sword, because when the illusion breaks, when she reveals that she cannot be the goddess you imagined, the collapse is brutal. The question Jung would ask you is simple. Did you love her? Or did you love the part of you that you saw reflected in her eyes? Until you face that truth, you will remain trapped, not by her, but by the chains of your own fantasy. You thought love was pure. You thought love was mutual. But the first brutal truth is this. Love, as you know it, is mostly projection. It is not her you loved. It was the dream you painted on her face. And when that dream fades, you call it betrayal. But tell me, did she ever promise you salvation? Did she ever say she could carry the weight of your unspoken needs, your thirst for meaning, your unhealed wounds? No. You wrote that script yourself. You handed her the pen and begged her to draw a man you could finally respect. Women, especially the eternal girl, thrive on this projection. They do not love you. They love the image you perform, the character you play in their story. She does not want the full, unfiltered you. She wants the version of you that orbits her, that bends, that shapes itself into the fantasy she feeds. And here lies the first illusion. You believed being chosen meant being seen. But she never truly saw you. She saw a mask. She saw a tool for her narrative. The strong, silent provider who would make her feel safe while she flutters through life like a child who refuses to grow. Carl Jung called this dance between man and woman a prison of projections. The animus and anima, the inner masculine and feminine forces within us, are often confused with reality. You did not meet her soul. You met your own unacknowledged anima reflected in her. And so you worshipped her, not as a woman, but as the answer to every question you feared to ask yourself. The eternal girl doesn't need to conquer you with lies or manipulation. She only needs to exist as an illusion you want to believe. Her charm is effortless because you are the one fueling it. Your hunger makes her powerful. Your need makes her magnetic. And the tragedy? The moment you stop feeding her fantasy, she will vanish. Or worse, she will turn cold, accusing, distant. Not because she changed, but because the performance ended. You think this is love? No. This is obedience dressed as devotion. It's you, kneeling at the altar of her approval, hoping she will anoint you as enough. But what if she never will? This is where the illusion begins to crack. When you start asking the question, was I ever truly loved, or was I just tolerated as long as I stayed in character? A young engineer, brilliant with machines but naive with hearts. He believed love was like the systems he designed. If he worked hard enough, calculated carefully enough, the structure would hold. He met her, the eternal girl, with her childlike laughter and dreamy eyes, and in her, he thought he found the missing piece of his life's puzzle. At first, everything felt effortless. She adored his seriousness, his focus, his ability to build and fix. She said, "You're the kind of man every girl dreams of." He believed her. He built a life around her words. Every late-night coding session, every project he finished, every promotion he earned, he thought, this will make her stay. This will make her proud of me. But over time, something shifted. Her laughter grew distant. Her compliments turned into complaints. "You're always busy," she said. "You don't understand me anymore." He tried harder, thinking he had failed her. He canceled his plans, silenced his dreams, and became the man she wanted. Or so he thought. One evening, after months of trying to salvage what was already gone, he came home early with flowers. The apartment was quiet. The lights were dim. On the table was a note, cold and detached. "I can't do this anymore. I need someone who sees me." His heart collapsed. He sat alone, surrounded by the silent objects of his devotion. The home he had paid for, the future he had planned, the love he thought was unshakable. Every memory burned like acid. Every sacrifice mocked him. How could she leave when he gave her everything? But the truth, brutal and unyielding, is this. She never wanted everything. She wanted the mystery, the challenge, the man who stood rooted in his own mission. The more he gave, the less she saw him. His love was not love to her. It was noise, an endless plea for validation. And as he stared at the note, the realization hit him like a hammer. He had not lost her, he had lost himself. This story is not his alone. It's the silent tragedy of countless men, men who mistake sacrifice for connection, who give their soul to a woman who was never capable of holding it. A woman is not the storm itself. She is the wind that opens the door and invites the storm in. She doesn't strike like lightning. She erodes like water, patiently, softly, until you no longer remember what it felt like to stand firm. The eternal girl, the puella eterna Jung warned about, is not malicious. She doesn't wake up plotting to destroy you, but her nature is to test, to draw, to pull. She thrives not in stability but in emotional motion, waves, highs and lows, unpredictability. She doesn't want to anchor you. She wants to see if you can anchor yourself. Think of her as a mirror made of smoke. When you chase her, you never hold anything solid, only shifting reflections. She will smile, and you will think you're close to touching the truth of her, but the moment you lean in, she vanishes, leaving you grasping at shadows. This is why men crumble. Not because women are powerful, but because men forget to hold their center. You believed that love meant stepping off your mountain to meet her in the valley. But a man who abandons his peak for the sake of her approval becomes unrecognizable, to her and to himself. She doesn't respect the man who bends. She respects the one who remains unmoved. Jung observed that when a woman's inner masculine, her animus, is undeveloped, she unconsciously seeks to control and project it onto the men around her. She tests you not because she consciously wants to, but because she needs to know if you can withstand her storm. The tragic truth is, most men fail this test. They bend under her silence, over-explain under her disapproval, and become frantic when her affection wanes. And here's the paradox. The moment she realizes she can move you, she loses the very attraction that brought her close. She wants a mountain, but you've given her sand. A woman's nature, like the ocean, is deep and unpredictable. You cannot control the tides, you cannot command the waves, but you can become the rock that does not move, the lighthouse that doesn't flicker, the presence that stands tall even when the storm rages. That, and only that, earns her respect. The eternal girl is not your enemy. She is your test. She is the whisper in your soul asking, will you remain a man, or will you become the boy who begs for love? You want to call her a liar. You want to call her manipulative, heartless, ungrateful. But none of those words will save you, because the harsh truth is this. You weren't betrayed, you volunteered. She didn't force you to give up your mission. She didn't beg you to lose your spine. You did it willingly, thinking it was love. You handed over your time, your energy, your self-respect like offerings at a temple, believing she would crown you king. Instead, she left you standing in the ruins of your own making. Why? Because you needed her approval more than you valued your own purpose. And here is the brutal truth. A man who needs is a man who will always be controlled. Carl Jung warned us about projection. The most dangerous psychological mistake is the projection of the shadow onto others. You blamed her for leaving, for being unpredictable, for testing you. But in reality, you were never standing on solid ground. Your need for her love was a mirror of the emptiness you refused to face. She didn't seduce you. You seduced yourself with the idea of her. You created a fantasy, a perfect image, and then tried to live up to the man you thought she wanted. Every time you abandoned your principles just to keep her smiling, you were teaching her something. That your boundaries were fake, that your power was negotiable, that your identity could be bought with affection. And once she saw this, how could she respect you? A woman may love a man's kindness, but she respects his strength. And without respect, love dies. So stop blaming her. Stop calling her the reason you fell apart. The truth is, she simply revealed the cracks that were already there. She showed you your dependency, your weakness, your quiet addiction to validation. This isn't about women. It's about you. About the parts of you that are still begging for permission to be enough. About the boy inside you who still believes love is earned by sacrifice rather than presence. If you want to rise again, you must first face this mirror and admit, I chose to lose myself. Because only by owning that will you have the strength to rebuild. Power is not in what you give. It is in what you can refuse to give. A man who cannot walk away is not a man. He is a servant waiting for orders. The eternal girl senses this instinctively. She doesn't have to argue or threaten. She simply watches your reactions. To her silence, to her distance, to her disapproval. Every time you break your own standard just to keep her close, you prove that you have no center. But the man who can walk away, quietly, without hatred, without explanation, is the man she cannot own. Jung would call this the first step toward individuation, claiming your own soul. You must learn to stand alone, not because you despise her, but because you refuse to lose yourself in her shadow. Understand this. Walking away is not revenge. It's revelation. It reveals who you are without her. It reveals what you truly value. It reveals whether your life is built on your own foundation or borrowed entirely from her approval. A woman cannot respect a man who kneels for her attention. She respects the man who can choose her but does not need her. The man who can say, I want you here, but I will remain whole without you. That energy is rare, magnetic, and unshakable. But walking away is more than leaving her physically. It's walking away from the illusions you built about her. It's walking away from the belief that her validation defines your worth. It's walking away from the desperate boy inside you who would rather be liked than be free. Think of it like a test of steel. Every time you stand your ground, every time you choose silence over explanation, every time you refuse to dance to her moods, you forge your own spine. You stop being the tool of her whims and start becoming the architect of your life again. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing her, the moment you no longer care if she stays, that is when she truly sees you. Not because you played a trick, but because your power is no longer for sale. The power of walking away is not about her at all. It is about you. About reclaiming the pieces of your soul you scattered just to be accepted. About proving that your mission, your values, your presence are worth more than any fleeting approval. When you become that man, she will either rise to meet you or disappear. Either way, you win. A man's life does not begin when he is loved. It begins when he chooses to stand alone. You have spent years orbiting her, hoping her gaze would bless you, hoping her approval would give meaning to your existence. But a man's worth is not found in someone else's eyes. It is carved piece by piece in the silence of his own mission. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the journey of becoming whole. It is not a journey of comfort. It is not about holding someone's hand while they tell you who you are. It is about climbing the mountain alone, shedding the false skins you wore to be accepted, and facing the truth of your own being. The engineer who loses himself in the eternal girl has forgotten this. He built structures for the world, but not for himself. He poured his intelligence into machines, but neglected the most important design of all, the architecture of his own soul. To walk the solo path is not weakness. It is the return to strength. When you strip away the need for applause, when you no longer crave to be chosen, you rediscover something far more dangerous, self-respect. And this is the fire that lights the summit. Imagine a mountain. At the base, you are surrounded by noise, the chatter of validation, the distractions of romance, the pull of wanting to be seen. But as you climb, the air thins. The voices fade. You start to see clearly. You realize you were not made to kneel at the bottom of someone else's valley. You were made to rise. This is why solitude terrifies most men. It forces them to face themselves, the raw, unfiltered truth of who they are when no one is watching. But this is also where a man becomes dangerous. The man who walks alone, who builds alone, who can sleep at night without needing a woman's approval. He is free. He is sovereign. He is unstoppable. Your mission is not to be chosen. Your mission is to choose yourself. Build the life that calls to you. Forge the body and mind that cannot be broken. Stand so tall that the world has no choice but to take notice. And here's the paradox. When you walk this path, women will appear. They will sense the strength you no longer flaunt. They will orbit the mountain you have become. But by then, you will no longer need their orbit. You weren't made to orbit her. You were made to rise. You didn't lose her. You lost the illusion, and that is your liberation. She was never the answer. She was the test. A mirror that reflected your hunger for validation, your fear of solitude, your quiet desperation to be chosen. When she left, she didn't take your worth with her. She simply revealed that you had placed your worth in the wrong hands. Carl Jung warned us, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. And this is your awakening. The man who looks inward no longer begs for someone else's approval because he knows the truth. No woman, no love, no fleeting comfort can define him. You were not born to be the savior of her moods or the servant of her fantasies. You were born to become a force, unmoved, unbroken, sovereign. When you finally rise into this truth, you will see what she could never see, that you are enough without her, and because of that, you can choose freely. Remember this, the man who can walk alone is the man the world cannot forget. If these words strike you, don't let them fade. Rise, build, awaken. And if this message shook you, share it. Subscribe, like, and support this channel, because more men need to hear the truth before they are devoured by the illusion.